Started when I was about 5. I remember being at school and it was difficult for me because not being able to read or write, it can become a problem, you know. It depends on how much, confidence you have. I decided that I didn't want to be at school. My body was there, my mind wasn't, so I used to abscond from school. And I remember hiding in the shed at the back of the garden and just sitting there, just to get away from the misery of school life, you know. So I'd just sit in the shed and just relax for a little bit and then just wait for the all clear. And then when my mum used to go to work, then I'd come out and just sit there in the sunshine. I remember looking down on the ground and seeing some ants, and they were scurrying around. I automatically thought they had nowhere to live. I thought if I made them some houses, they'll move in. So I started making houses for ants. I know it sounds a bit strange, but age 5 it wasn't, because like I said, I lived in this fantasy world where I believed that ants were homeless, so I started making little houses for ants. I used to get shards of glass, little microscopic slivers, probably about ½ an inch or so. I'd get little splinters of wood and I'd slice up little shards and make like beams, then building up like a little cabin, and then I'd make a little doorway, and then I'd sort of keep building till I sort of had this sort of like little house. It was a bit crude at the time, but I could see the shape, it was there. There was room inside for an ant to live there. Then I just got obsessed with making these small things. I showed a few people, but the people that I showed, they were like very young kids at the time, and when they used to see them, they used to go, "Wow, that's fantastic, how'd you do that?" When you get someone praising you, especially if you've never been praised for what you've done, especially when it comes to academics, and then they praise you for something that you've done and they tell you it's good, then you believe it. So I believed that it was good. My mum used to say it doesn't matter how big a tree is, it started small with a little acorn. Even the building starts with one brick. The bricks are made up of molecules. Sometimes in life you can say a few words and mean much more than a whole book. You don't have to say a lot to mean a lot. I never had any training whatsoever. I could just do it. I just pick little tools up and just make things. I probably inherited it from the past or something. I'm probably a descendant of one of the Egyptian sculptures just come back in reincarnation. Working on small things is a test of your patience. You have to more or less control your whole nervous system, slow down your breathing, work between your heartbeat. The slightest tremor in your finger can be detrimental to the work, you know. The effort is tremendous effort. It's colossal, whatever word you want to use for me to actually do it. It takes so much out of me to do it. It's almost like trying to put a pin through a bubble without bursting the bubble, you know. It's static electricity, dust particles. I had to work through the night to avoid any vibration of traffic or any disturbances, lock myself away a little bit. 16 hours a day working on it, making a few mistakes, starting again, going insane, then starting again. So you have to be a dead man working. So what you do, you sort of kill your body and work. Creating the Lloyd's building was the biggest challenge I've ever had, because I knew that at the end of it, it would have to look like the building, and whoever's seen it would have to recognise that it is the Lloyd's building. If it didn't look like it, then I'd have to blame myself and I'd feel embarrassed because, you know, I haven't succeeded. I never took the challenge at first because I just thought, I don't know. And then they said to me, "I bet you couldn't do it." And I said, "Well, I don't know." And then they said it to me again, and I said, "Okay." We're working on probably 0.5 millimetre, something like that. I would say the size of a sugar granule. If you sprinkle sugar on the table, you'll see some granules will be the same size as the building. I had to choose the right material, and what came to mind was white gold. because white gold is very exquisite and it's beautiful. And I used some laminated sort of nylon, which has got a beautiful silver sheen on it, which is a very strong material, which I had to sort of cut very gently and then sort of push it together with its own friction. It was very difficult because having to attach the corners on such a microscopic level without it sort of, I had to go back to my childhood and remember the houses that I built for the ants. I couldn't just do it by seeing it from a photograph. I had to have a model in front of me and then keep the image of that model in my head while I'm working, because it was very difficult for me to work and then look and then work and look. I had to keep the image in my head and work. It took me about 3.5 months non-stop, because you keep making mistakes, because it doesn't work straight away. That nothing is going to be perfect, things are going to go wrong. So you have to keep on rectifying your mistakes. Then when fatigue sets in, things go wrong, so you have to sort of allow your body time to rest. Because you're focusing so long, sometimes you think it looks okay, and then when you come back and you see that you've made a mistake, the shape of it's not right, and you have to dismantle one side of it and build it back up again. And all this is a painstaking process. It's almost like performing microsurgery on an ant or something. When I finished it, the only man who could be a judge of that is the actual architect, the gentleman that created the building, Lord Rogers himself. He sat down over the microscope, then he saw this little silver glitter underneath the microscope, looked through the lens. Then I saw his mouth drop open, and then he just moved his head away from the microscope, and his very words were phenomenal, extraordinary. He was knocked out, blown away. And that was my job satisfaction. And then he looked at me and he shook my hand and he says, "What you've done there has made me feel proud, because you've just created something that I spent a long time to create, and you've done a replica of it in a microscopic form. You're a true artist." It just made me feel that everything that happened to me in the past no longer exists. You know, doing this was one of the biggest challenges I've ever had, and completing it I think that was the most rewarding part of my career, finishing this building and getting it to look right. My work is having a huge impact on people. It's the ripples. It's like the ripples of a small pebble thrown into the sea, and it's spreading. The ripples are going on and on and on and on, and everybody's looking at this microscopic work that I've created. My mum said to me, she says, the smaller my work, the bigger my name will become. And the ripples are spreading throughout the whole world. The media are fascinated by my work. Public are fascinated by it. And I'm fascinated by them being fascinated by it. You know, I've done quite a few chat shows, you know, and then it just sort of just went from there. And then before I knew it, everybody wanted to know. The media interest has been so great that I've had crews from all over the world coming to interview me, you know, to film the work and talk about me and my life, you know, and what made me want to do this type of work. And it's still growing. It's even bigger than ever now.
He uses tiny homemade tools and paints with a hair plucked from a housefly's back.
That is the bit where the psychiatrist probably needs to see you afterwards.
Disaster can strike at any time. It struck Alice in Wonderland.
I was carrying her towards a needle, and then I looked again through the microscope and she'd gone, disappeared. I think I inhaled her. I had a letter from the Queen nominating me to receive an MBE. I just feel so honoured and proud. If my mum was alive today, she'd be real proud. She's proud now, even though she's passed away, but she always knew that I was going to make a success of my life. it's like the highlight of your career, really, in a way, because you've worked hard throughout your life, and then when you achieve something like that, it's just, I feel real proud. Yeah. My work was on exhibition at the Grand Design at the NEC in Birmingham. David Lloyd was informed. I didn't think that I'd hear anything, and then all of a sudden I had a phone call from David Lloyd wanting to meet me, and we arranged a meeting. He'd seen the work, and just like everybody else, he was shocked and stunned by what I'd done, and he said, "This needs to go further." He says, "With this type of talent can't be unseen." And then he said to me that he would love to purchase some of the work, which he did. He said he didn't just want to buy the pieces, he wanted to exhibit them, and he wanted to exhibit me along with the work. So it became a whole package, and we became a good, we built up a good friendship. And not only that, I have a lot of respect for David Lloyd, being the entrepreneur that he is. His accolade has sort of taken my work just that little step further to where it needs to be. He's told me that he's seen a lot of things, but he's never seen anything like what I've created. And he says that I would love to get involved by opening a museum or a gallery to exhibit your work and take it further. The work speaks for itself, but when you have a name like David Lloyd behind the work, it's an extension. And the gallery will be called the David Lloyd Gallery, in the mailbox in Birmingham city centre. All those people that think they have learning difficulties or dyslexia or whatever they have, they'll succeed more, because that's what happens. People that have less will always have more. It's almost like having an A-level or degree, and then someone doesn't have one but they have another skill which makes up for it. Just because you failed academically doesn't mean to say you're not going to succeed. Being dyslexic myself, I only thought it wise that the proceeds of this auction would go to Dyslexic Society and the Prince's Trust. To actually know the difficulty that I went through at school, you'd have to be dyslexic yourself, and I know how confusing and miserable it can be for someone who's dyslexic, and those who don't understand will never know. And to me, I think it's going to go to the right place. My pleasure is flying, my enjoyment is flying, but not on a huge scale, on a small scale. I have a fascination for radio-controlled helicopters of the micro kind that you can fly in your living room, very tiny helicopters. That's my pleasure. When I see something flying, it fascinates me, because I'm wondering how it's staying up there. When I see an airplane in the air and I know that airplane is going to take you from one country to another, it's just that fascination with something that can lift into mid-air. So flight is something that I'm just amazed with. That's why I'm interested in it. But to fly in a real plane, it's frightening. But little planes, I like little planes. I created this work because I wanted to show the world that we should never look down upon people because they have less. Physically, yes, some people may have more, but in your heart you can have more. So I wanted to show people that the littlest things can mean the most. And this building that I've done, I hope it means the most to this person who's bought this piece. My work is less, but it's more. Because you can't see it, but it's more than anyone's ever seen. I put a lot of love into this work. God gave me the gift, and I'll emphasise that. And whoever's purchased this work, when they look at it, they can think of what went behind it.